These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
And a happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate. We will get to the middle of the night firing of Ben Johnson. Doogie has some information on that, so we will get to that. Go for basketball, big shakeups. But let's talk some Vikings to start the show here, Dukes. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. It's been a crazy busy week for the Vikings. So much has happened since we talked to you even on Tuesday. You reported on this show last week that you were hearing very, very likely Harrison Smith was going to come back. And the Vikings announced that yesterday. There's the Aaron Rodgers stuff that's been floating around. So why don't you start Vikings wherever you feel compelled, and we'll go from there, Dukes.
Well, fun week, Phil. So much has gone right for the Vikings. On Harrison Smith, the Vikings, my understanding is, received inclination going back many days that he was in. It was then a matter of working out the contract. Those details were finalized on Wednesday night. Those have been shared by many people, receiving the same information from probably the same source. So it's not like I needed to be the 19th person to tweet exact contractual details. But like, he's going to make, if he performs, if there are stats, if the team does well, $14 million this year. So that is a win for Harrison Smith. They are paying him to perform. They feel like there's still a lot of good football left. I get it, in 24, the wow plays weren't necessarily there, but I thought overall he had a pretty good year. I don't know what the PFF grade was for the totality of the year, but I feel like there was enough good on the field. Judd, we have discussed this. To me, there is no wrong. Even if you think they overpaid him, there is no wrong. The intangibles, the leadership, the Friday coffee sessions with KOC sharing thoughts, his relationship with Brian Flores. To me, there is no negative to Harrison Smith about to play his 14th season in purple. Hopefully it's another good year. Hopefully maybe after his 14th year, we can come up with a really compelling case for him to one day be in Canton. But minimum, Vikings Ring of Honor, a Vikings Hall of Famer, an all-time Viking. I am happy to hear that Harrison Smith will officially be back.
Can we talk about right now with what's been constructed, guys, being retained and also outside signings, this defense? Like this defense. So 2 years ago, Flores shows up and he's basically got the ragtag group, right? It's Donatel's guys. It's got some good players, don't get me wrong. But it has a lot of guys that probably, you can make a compelling case, don't necessarily fit the style of play. Last year, they go out and get 2 guys that can rush from the edge as outside linebackers. Dallas Turner doesn't do much, but it's still an addition. So they were much improved. Now let's talk about this, Dukes. Like, you look at what they've done, and yes, I get it. Some guys are older, and everyone or a good portion of your defense has to stay healthy. I will acknowledge that off the top. But once I say that, if you look at what the mission was, defensive tackles now, Harrison Smith back, Bynum back. I mean, this defense looks like it should be among the elite now, especially considering the coordinator in the entire league next season.
They are stacked. And the knowledge that these guys now have multiple years, like a Josh Metellus, a Byron Murphy Jr. Think about Byron, his first year in the Flores defense. Pretty blah. Second year, took off. So all these guys having the experience playing in the Flores defense, yes, A+. The absolute expectation entering September is minimum, this is a top 5 defense. By November or December, we could be talking about the top-ranked defense or top 3. But to me, the pieces they have in place, this is absolutely a top 5 defense. Now, hey, they're still working on some things. Like, they were in on Jones, the pass rusher, who ultimately went to Tennessee on Wednesday for $10 million. So they weren't going to pay that. Interest in retaining Jihad Ward. So they're still looking for some depth. Edge rusher. They need another corner. There is some interest in re-signing Shaq Griffin, but you have Rodgers, you have Blackman, you have Murphy. You could go corner with your first pick in April. So there's still some pieces to figure out. But yes, overall, I mean, they could use a depth linebacker. There's certain things they will still look to do, but the main pieces are in place. And hey, they would have loved to have retained Cam Bynum, but they knew going back weeks that just wasn't going to happen. So they understand that. They have full faith in Theo Jackson. They feel really good about the pieces in place.
So with the pieces being in place, and the last time we heard that uttered was about a decade and a half ago, here's my question for you, Dukes. So actually, Diana Rossini just has some credit to Purple Persuasion for digging this up on the Gojo and Golick show. Diana Rossini from The Athletic said, the reason why the Vikings are considering Aaron Rodgers and why it's a hard decision, according to her, is because they have everything in place to win. They have a lot of maybe a top 5 defense, weapons. They've got a lot of things in place. Who's going to quarterback a team with a lot of things in place? J.J. McCarthy, who I think we all believe for the next 10 years is the Vikings guy, but he would be stepping foot regular season on an NFL field for the first time, or Aaron Rodgers with a little bit left in that right arm. This isn't just like people were kind of dunking on us yesterday. This isn't us. This is the Vikings are considering this according to credible national reports. So what do you make of that, Dukes?
Well, here's what I make of it. Do I think his name has come up in Egan? Yes. Do I think his representation has reached out to the Vikings trying to push this forward? Yes. I still go back to August. KOC choosing his words very carefully, strategically, calling J.J. McCarthy franchise quarterback that we have. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but we have our franchise quarterback. You mean to tell me that that franchise quarterback is about to sit out for another year? Now, I get it, Phil. I think you made this case Wednesday on Purple Daily. For the 2025 season, who gives you a better chance? If the plan is to play deep into January, who gives you a better chance? Aaron Rodgers or J.J. McCarthy? I understand that. But what about everything else that entails having Aaron Rodgers? What does that do for the next handful of years to J.J. McCarthy? I would roll the dice that KOC is a good enough play caller, schemer, that this coaching staff is uber talented, one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, that there are enough other pieces in place where the quarterback doesn't necessarily always have to win them the game. I am going with J.J. McCarthy. And until I hear otherwise, I get it. The name has come up. But a lot of things come up that ultimately never come to fruition. Until I hear otherwise, I couldn't wrap my arms around Sam Darnold being back here this year. I can't wrap my arms around Aaron Rodgers being this team's starting quarterback. And he's not coming here to be a backup. When talking about Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers comes here, he is the starter. Like I've had people ask me, well, would Aaron come here to back up to mentor JJ? Hell no. No. If Aaron Rodgers comes here, he's coming here to be the starting quarterback.
What do we know about if it's not him? And I'm inclined to agree with the points that you just made, Dukes. What do we know about what the plan is? Because Mac Jones made sense. He's now gone to San Francisco. So as the market shrinks and as we think that the Vikings have, kicked the tires, but probably won't go in that direction. And by the way, no access to the new players or coaching staff. So we have no clue. What's your best guess on what direction they would go for a backup quarterback to McCarthy? Because I think it's very clear that Brett Rippon will be on the roster probably, but he's the number 3 guy.
Yes. So the agents for all these backup type quarterbacks have been in touch with the Vikings. Often it's been the agent initiating an attempt at dialogue, right? If you name the backup quarterback, Carson Wentz, Mason Rudolph, go up and down the list of still available guys, you see a clear need here with the Vikings. So you are being proactive at this point. You are reaching out to the Vikings. I don't have their exact pecking order. I could make a case for Mason Rudolph did well with a young QB, Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh, did well with a young QB, Will Levis in Tennessee. So I could make a case for Rudolph, but you can make a case for some other guys. And so I don't know how they have those guys ranked. I did mention on Tuesday, I know going back to the Spielman regime, some carryover, some guys that are still here from the Spielman regime. They have been fans of Mariota in the past, but I get it. He wants to go back to Washington. So, yeah, cross him off the board, cross Mac Jones off the board, cross Jacoby Brissett off the board. So, yeah, the options are starting to dwindle. I don't know the exact order, but I can tell you the agents for all these guys have been in touch with the Vikings.
So with those options dwindling, is that a sign to you that they are super confident in J.J. McCarthy, or is it a sign to you that they are actively looking for someone to start over J.J. McCarthy? And I'll throw another name out there. On Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons owe Kirk Cousins a $10 million guaranteed roster bonus, on top of all the cap ramifications from his 4-year, $180 million contract. He's a backup right now. I know they're posturing because in a perfect world, they'd love for like the Browns to trade them something for Kirk. But this is a game of chicken between Kirk and the Falcons that probably ends this weekend. I can't imagine the Falcons keeping him around, unnecessarily paying him a $10 million roster bonus. So it's possible on Monday that Aaron Rodgers is available and Kirk Cousins is available, both on. I mean, Kirk would be a crazy discount because he has offsetting language. He would sign with whoever, Browns, Vikings, Steelers, whoever, for like $1 million or $2 million probably. Rodgers probably more in that 25, 30, 35. You have to find some more money for him. But those guys might both be available on Monday.
Yeah, and to me, yeah, it would be like the Russell Wilson deal, right? Where he had all the money from Denver, goes to Pittsburgh. So, yeah, wherever Cousins lands, it's a sweetheart deal for the new team. I'm with you. I mean, I get it. The Falcons are trying to create this idea that they are going to keep him, but it just doesn't make logical sense. Include the Browns in this game of chicken. So Russell Wilson is visiting the Browns? What?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Then he'll visit the Giants too. So if the Giants don't get Aaron Rodgers, Wilson to the Giants. Okay, that makes enough sense to me. But Stefanski with Cousins, that makes all sorts of sense. Until I hear otherwise. Kirk wants to still play. So where is that best opportunity? I mean, I get it that the Browns just acquired. Heck, did they just get Pickett? Did the Eagles just trade him to the Browns?
Have Kenny Pickett. Yeah.
They have Kenny Pickett. Okay. Cousins goes to Cleveland. There's an immediate pathway to playing time. That makes sense. Judd, I thought you threw out a pretty good theory. Why not just bring it out here into the universe, the public universe? Okay, the Vikings were going to introduce some of these free agents, whether Jonathan Allen on Wednesday, some guys today, all these guys, Will Fries and company, they're in Eagan today. Yep. Why not make these guys available to the local media? Okay, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah will be made available at some point, but it's not today. We don't sense it's tomorrow. Correct. KOC isn't being made available. Are they afraid might be the wrong word, but do they feel like the Aaron Rodgers dialogue will dominate those press sessions and they don't exactly know how to answer those questions?
Yeah. And don't forget they have a coach who does not like to lie. When Kevin Seifert asked about Daniel Jones, KO gave a very specific probably don't know, maybe. And
he's like Jim Carrey in that 90s movie, that liar movie. The pen is blue.
It is interesting. I will say on Phil's Cousins take, and I've dismissed it. Like, common sense says I would not sign Rodgers or certainly Kirk. I do wonder, because the Vikings could have, like, there are any number of scoop folks like you, Dukes, insiders, right? The Vikings could have very quietly picked one, Schefter, Pelissero, I don't care, and said, we're not in on. We're Aaron Rodgers, we are J.J. McCarthy, full steam ahead. This is not from us, obviously, but we want you to relay that to the world. They have not done that. And that's where you get the windy fingers of why. Mm-hmm. Is it because they are in on Aaron still? Or is this all an elaborate smokescreen towards Kirk. Because I would rather have you guys speculating. If I'm them, I would rather have Aaron Rodgers speculating than Kirk. And then the questions, and again, the Vikings, it's their right to keep this as quiet as they want. But then when they do, they have entered the reckless speculation lifestyle. So they can't criticize us for coming up with theories. Is something still wrong with McCarthy? I don't know that, but this certainly seems a little bit odd. Do they not trust him? I don't know that, but this certainly seems odd. And at the end of the day, you guys, if you don't trust McCarthy and you're going to bring in a quarterback to start, are you going to bring in a 41-year-old Rodgers, a year plus removed from an Achilles, who you don't really know well as a person and who definitely is old? Or are you going to bring in Kirk Cousins, a year plus removed from an Achilles, who you know well and knows your offense backwards and forwards? That's my question.
I'll answer that from my perspective. If, let's say they have, it's reckless speculation Thursday here, right?
Vikings are encouraging it. Just remember that.
If they have decided, hey, we McCarthy's our guy long term, but for this year, we're gonna put a veteran quarterback in there one year and see how far we can go. You would be foolish to make that Kirk Cousins over Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins, who's been in any number of situations, a lot of them pretty advantageous, has come nowhere near a conference championship game. And these are all the same conversations we had for 6 years, and I don't want to relitigate all of it. Not that Aaron Rodgers guarantees you a trip to the Super Bowl, because he's had his own shortcomings in the playoffs, but they usually happen in the conference championship game at least. So to me, like, I get the familiarity with the system. Both guys tore their Achilles. Both guys are pretty old. Rodgers is older. If I'm deciding between those two guys and only those two guys, I am choosing Aaron Rodgers over Kirk Cousins.
I probably am too. Yeah. Here's another wrinkle to all this. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported on Wednesday that an offer has been made by the Steelers to Aaron Rodgers. Well, if Aaron was really, really interested, doesn't he commit by now to the Steelers? Now, maybe there's some haggling over, the money, whatever. But, to me, the Steelers make the most sense. But do I think deep down, if Aaron Rodgers, in an ideal world for Aaron Rodgers, Steelers, Giants, Vikings, Aaron Rodgers is coming here to Minnesota.
That, if it's just from his perspective, it's Minnesota.
It's not even, a discussion. It's snap of the fingers, I am going to be a Viking. And so I think that's why the chatter still exists, that he, through back channels, his representation through back channels, is trying to push this Vikings narrative as forward as possible. And for now, the Vikings are not shooting it down. I just can't, though. I just can't. I can't. As great a storyline as it would be, from our perspective, right? Bring on Aaron Rodgers. Ugh. We want stuff to talk about, right? This would be the ultimate storyline. So sure, sign me up for Aaron Rodgers as a Viking. But Phil, I can't. I can't get there. Maybe I just need more information. But I've been in touch with some people that know enough stuff. They're not there yet either. So if they're not there, I'm not there on this actually coming to fruition.
One last thing on this, and then we got to get to Gopher basketball overnight stole headlines. We'll get to that. But it is weird that they haven't brought in a backup quarterback yet. The Daniel Jones thing, all right, the bidding got a little out of hand and he wanted a chance to start. I get the Daniel Jones thing.
Although a reminder, I threw it in Tuesday, a lot of stuff was happening. They made a very competitive offer to Daniel Jones. This wasn't about money. This was about Daniel saying, I can beat out Anthony Richardson. I can be the week one starting quarterback. That wasn't going to happen here in Minnesota.
Maybe they have a Gardner Minshew or Cooper Rush deal in their back pocket, a guy that they like enough to come in here, and if he has to start some games. So maybe they've got something in their back pocket. I just want to point out, though, that it is odd because under no even if you love J.J. McCarthy and you are super confident, you would not go in without some sort of reliable safety net, even if he is the bona fide starter. And the fact that they haven't grabbed one yet is interesting. It's another layer to this thing.
Some breaking news on the quarterback position. NFL media reporting the quarterback Mason Rudolph has agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal to return to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So that's another one off the board.
So he's off the board. Now he'd be a backup in Pittsburgh, I would think. But nonetheless, that's another really good, decent backup candidate off the board.
There you go. Take him off the board. I'm still down for some Joe Flacco. Get old Joe Flacco in here for a year. And
actually wouldn't be shocked by that.
Hey, before we get to some other scoopage
to those
here.
Colts offensive linemen, I mean, they didn't consider him last year, 2 years ago, I guess it would be. But, yeah, I mean, same representation as one of those guys. Yeah. Yeah, that's a name. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Judd, this reckless speculation Thursday presented in part by MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
Yeah, folks, that guess what? You can rely on. How do I know? Because you're saying right now, Sports Dad, I'm watching this, but I don't know how do you know that you can rely on the folks at MSP? And I'm going to tell you it's simple because I use them and they did an outstanding job. Water heater, water softener, both fried. MSP came to my house. They looked at them and they didn't go, "Oh, Judd, if you don't replace these, you're crazy." They just said, "You know what? It's probably time." And I said, "If it's time, I want you to do it because I trust you." They did an outstanding job. That's not all, though. They also have right now the Big Green Egg giveaway sponsored by our friends at Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Store. MSP will be doing this grill giveaway for all customers that book a repair. Get $60 off any HVAC or plumbing repair, and you will be entered for a chance to win. The medium-sized Green Egg, by the way, a $1,000 value that you can win just for booking a repair. For service, call them 651-615-4292 or check out their website. Call MSP.com. Call MSP.com. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Again, folks that you can trust, and if I trust them, you should too.
Also, legit pizza is what I trust. Explicitly. Implicitly. Any sort of word ending in ly.
Yeah.
Deliciously.
Realistically, you trust them too.
Realistically. Legit pizza you can find in a frozen section at a store near you, and you can sink your teeth into that stone-baked, cracker-thin crust, zesty tomato sauce on the YouTube channel here. You see that sausage and pepperoni, or there's the pepperoni sausage, the mushroom and sausage before that. Just some of the most fantastic frozen pizza you're going to find. So find legit pizzas at a store near you, have an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience. Well, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning and just kind of turned over. I fell asleep in the third quarter of the Wolves game and had to watch the rest this morning. But as I was scrolling through my phone, I see that.
How good were they last night? My God.
I know. 1:20 in the morning Central Time, Mark Coyle sends out a press release firing Ben Johnson. And the press release is kind of ridiculous. That we look to win championships around here, which they haven't in forever. Williams Arena is an advantage. It is not. So Ben Johnson fired. I think two things can be true here. Ben Johnson, not one of the better coaches in the Big Ten, but also not given nearly the tools, NIL money, and resources that he should be given for a top 14 media market. And by the way, one of the top in terms of pumping out graduates and business owners out in the world that you could be tapping for donations and NIL. They're not maximizing the resources for whoever the coach is, Doogie. But they fire Ben Johnson last night, and we start over again.
We do. Quickly, Mason Rudolph, the Vikings never made an official offer. There was some chatter, but it never got to the point of the Vikings making an official offer. It was far enough down the road with him returning to an organization he was with prior, so that got done. Mason Rudolph to the Steelers. Feel horrible for Ben, A-plus person, but I get it. It's a cutthroat business. The Big Ten record, 22-57. Enough said on that. But was it his fault that Elijah Hawkins left last April? That was a broker coming in, not even an NBA-certified agent, a broker coming in, brokering a deal. Can't fault Elijah for going to Texas Tech. But how is that on Ben? The next coach, and I will tell you this much, Mark Coyle always has a plan. It's not like Mark Coyle fired Ben late last night, then said to himself, along with Julie Manning, who's in charge of Gophers basketball over at the U, okay, what should we do now? Mark Coyle already has his guy. I'm just telling you that. Like, it may take a few days, but I'm just saying, Mark knows exactly what he's doing. But whoever that next guy is, Nico Medved of Colorado State, okay? Whoever that next guy is, like, is a whole lot going to change without more funding / resources available? Now, revenue sharing is coming this spring. That evens the playing field a little bit. But if you're one of these big-time programs, you still have other funding to buy players. It's like EuroLeague basketball. It's year to year. All these guys are year to year. You need funding. Nico Medved can coach. Would Nico Medved over the last 4 years have had a Big Ten record of 22 and 57? No. But do I think his record would have been 57 and 22? No. And so you need a lot more support. Now, Mark Coyle can talk a big game. He'll meet with us on Friday. He can talk a big game. His time at Kentucky, his time at Syracuse, serving on the NCAA basketball committee. Mark Coyle loves basketball. It's a basketball family. Heck, his youngest is playing tonight for a section championship on the Cretin-Durham Hall boys basketball team. Cretin against Tartan. Big-time high school basketball game here in town. The Coyle family loves basketball. And hey, if it's Nico Medved, fine, great. Former Gopher, from here. Nico deserves this opportunity. That would be a great hire. But I just don't know if you're winning here without the other support in place. I get it, though. I get it when you're not winning. It had to happen. I understand that. Also a credit, let me remind everybody, Phil, a credit to Ben Johnson's agent. The extension signed May of 22 and did not get a raise. But the language in the contract was changed. He ends up with an additional $1 million today. So his buyout is $2.92 million. Without that extension, May of 22, the buyout today would have been $1.92 million. So marvelous work by Ben's agent. He made somewhere in the neighborhood the last 4 years of $11 million. So Ben will be okay. Ben will be more than okay. He'll land an assistant job somewhere. He has enough contacts. Ben is young enough. He can be a head coach again in a handful of years. But still, A-plus guy. You will not meet a nicer person than Ben Johnson. Me personally, I knew I was on an island. I've said this a lot. I said it on TV on Channel 5 here in the Twin Cities on Sunday. I get it. I won't be shocked if by this time next week, so this Sunday, we were looking ahead to the week. I said, hey, I won't be shocked whatsoever. There's buzz out there that Ben is going to get fired. So I'm not surprised. But I said, hey, instead of buying him out for $2.92 million, funnel that $2.92 to Dinkytown Initiative. He knows how to identify talent, but you need him to have the opportunity to buy said talent. Nate Heisey, who's playing well for Iowa State, but he's like the seventh man for the Cyclones, had all sorts of interest in coming here. They got outbid. Andrew Morgan, good big man for Nebraska. Sixth man, maybe he started some games, but Andrew Morgan had all sorts of interest in coming here this year. Nebraska paid him more money. So you are going to continue to lose out on players who actually have legit interest in being here until there's more money in play. Maybe Coyle will address that on Friday, that they are going to have more money outside of the revenue sharing, because he'll cite revenue sharing, and I get that. These players will be making more money next year with the revenue sharing, although a good chunk of that money, rightfully so, will go to the football program. But men's basketball players will make more money starting next year. But is it enough? Because everybody is going to have revenue sharing. I just feel bad, even though $11 million is a lot of money. I feel bad for a really good human being.
Is there ever going to come a time, Doogie, when the pressure turns to Mark Coyle? Mark Coyle avoids the media. It feels like he avoids the public. The reality is this, from what I'm told, to his credit, PJ Fleck does a ton of work to raise funds. Like, he does the AD stuff. He finds the boosters. He gets the money. So I guess if I was to sit down with Mark, I would say, what exactly do you do here? And second of all, at some point in time, why isn't it your job on the line? Because Ben Johnson is being, I get it, rightfully so, caught up in the new age of college sports. Like, people just left him. That's unfortunate. But if he's going to pay with his job, my next question is, okay, that's cool. When does Coyle pay with his job? Because you have to, one, be, I think, more publicly active, like in front of everybody, not just boosters. I mean, everybody. And second of all, the football team and the basketball team very arguably need GMs now. So it feels to me like the next guy to go really should be Coyle, not another fall guy coach.
I will tell you, it's disappointing that when he addresses us on Friday, the plan is via Zoom. And I don't care what he cites about NCAA basketball commitments need to be at some conference tournament this weekend.
I agree with this completely. Yes, thank you.
He could have met with us this morning. As of 9 a.m., he was here in town. Meet with us this morning. Do it in person, not over the computer. That disappoints me. 1:30 a.m. doesn't necessarily disappoint me. It's a weird time to put out a press release, but they got back travel-wise. They got back late from Indy. The meeting took a little time. He wanted to get it out before Ben's agent leaked it to, Jeff Goodman or you name the national reporter. So I'm okay with 1:30 in the morning, as weird as that is. But Mark Coyle should be meeting with us in person. Fine if it's tomorrow, but in person. Should be today, but fine if it's tomorrow. He knows how to hire coaches, though, Judd. He has a good relationship with the new president. And so I don't think he's necessarily in any sort of trouble. You could argue maybe he should be, but he nailed the Fleck hiring. I would argue, now I get it, they're going to miss the big dance, but Don Plitzowite, he nailed, to me, that hiring. Heck, Ty McDevitt, whatever you think of the Gopher baseball program, to me, he nailed that hiring or the importance of the Gopher baseball program.
Great game yesterday.
You see the score? Council came back and kicked their ass. The Council
I know.
kid.
Do not look at the box score from Wednesday, but Ty McDevitt was a good hire. Look at all his hirings. They've been pretty darn good. He knows what he's doing. Maybe Lindsey aside, right? But getting Dawn in here, really good hire. And no knock on Lindsey. Just, I don't know if she was quite ready for the moment, right? We all love Lindsey. But Mark, for the most part, knows what he's doing. But yes, in terms of conveying a message, public speaking, some of those things, Judd, you're spot on. But I'm just telling you, my sense is he's in zero trouble. So you can champion the cause, go for it. It's a fair opinion to have, but I'm just telling you, reality is I don't sense he's in any trouble whatsoever.
Yeah. All right, let's do a minute of rapid fire scoops here,
well,
Dukes,
quickly, let me give you a little bit more. I mean, Mark knows what he's doing, right? I don't randomly say the name Nico Medved. That would be the name more than any I would keep an eye on. Does Ryan Saunders, do I sense he has interest in this job? Sure. Right? And hey, Florida State just hired an NBA assistant. BYU has an NBA assistant. It's a little bit of a trend in college basketball, finding an NBA assistant, because in many ways it's professional basketball now.
Yeah.
So do I think Ryan, a Gopher alum, has interest? Sure. Do I think others have interest? Heck, Sam Mitchell. Sure, right? But Mark Coyle knows exactly what he's doing. And I would put Nico Medved atop any list. Whatever list you're making of potential candidates, Johnny Tower at St. Thomas, whoever. And Johnny absolutely could coach at the high major level, although I want to see Johnny in the new arena next fall. So I want him still at St. Thomas. But look at the name Nico Medved. The buyout is significant. The buyout is north of $3 million, if I'm doing the calculation correctly. He signed an extension last April that upped the buyout. But hey, if you're paying $292, that means you're serious here. So Coyle must have some money in his back pocket. If you're paying Ben that much money to go away, his staff that much money, I talk about $292, but it's more than. When you're buying out everyone you need to buy out, it's more than $2.92. Then if you're buying out Nico Medved, north of $3 million, then you're giving him what sort of contract? I mean, Ben was the lowest paid coach in the Big Ten. So what are you giving Nico Medved? To me, you need to make him somewhere in the middle, 9th, 10th in the Big Ten, something like that, right? So Mark Coyle must have money. Those will be among the questions for Mark on Friday.
Yeah. Really good info, Dukes. Really good info. Good reckless speculation Thursday
Can't believe
session
we didn't get
here.
into Cooper Kupp.
Well, there's some steam there. We
There
got
is.
to record Purple Daily
That is
here, and we
legit
will
steam.
talk about it there. Yeah.
I can wrap my arms around Cooper Kupp. Now, hey, the Packers, other teams have interest. I mean, heck, does he have interest in staying on the West Coast? There's a bunch of teams, but we can absolutely go with there are many Cooper Kupp fans in Egan. So, we'll see where that goes here in the coming days. But, it's easy to suggest the Vikings have interest in Cooper Kupp. And how about the Wolves? Julius Randle, 11-game winning streak. Wolves, 6-game winning streak, coming home for 5 straight. The Wolves could end up, after all this, with an 11-game winning streak. But since Julius Randle has played, right, they went on a 5-game winning streak. Then he gets hurt. He's out. Then they've won 6 in a row since he's been back. 11 straight wins for Julius Randle. If they play like they did last night, it's not easy to duplicate. And, hey, they own the Denver Nuggets. That would be a great 6-3 first-round matchup. Okay, so I get it. And Aaron Gordon didn't play last night. But if the Wolves play like that, Phil, the Wolves are fully capable of winning multiple playoff series again.
Oh, okay. Because I was told otherwise 4 months ago, but that's fine. Don't jump on the bandwagon now. You all know who you are. All right, Dukes, we got to run. Great stuff. We'll keep following Doogie's work on Twitter/X and as part of the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. This is Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.